I received an email from a viewer called Oliver, and he starts by saying nice things about my video, which is always a good way to start, but then he goes on to ask a really great question. I feel my variation of pace is very weak. I seem to hit everything hard all the time, and looking at the professionals, that isn't the case. What I'm not sure about is how often to change the pace, etc. Are there any rules of thumb, do you think? Also, are there any solo practices which you could suggest to practice it? I've already covered pace variation in my quick squash tips, but this email inspired me to make a video, the one that you're watching now, a little bit more about it. The video is aimed at competitive club players and is not really suitable for beginners or improvers. Before we switch over to the on-court view, here are some guiding principles for you to consider. The first point is inspired by the Pareto principle, and I'll be making more videos about the Pareto principle and how it can be applied to your squash later this summer. The Pareto principle states that 80% of the consequences come from 20% of the causes. Now in this particular case, we're just going to be using the 80-20, nothing deeper than that. In general, I recommend about 80% of the hitting time you hit the ball at about 80% your maximum hitting speed. At 80% your maximum hitting speed, you have a high level of control without giving your opponent too much time. But within that 80%, you still can have plenty of variation. In fact, anywhere from 60% your maximum up to 80% your maximum. Above 80% your maximum, and you might begin to lose control. Below 60%, and you will definitely give your opponent too much time. The other 20% is for hitting the ball very hard, kills for example, or working boasts, drawing your opponent to the front of the court, or drops. So the drills that I'm about to show you are for the shots that constitute about 80% of your hitting time. One misconception about pace variation is that it has to be big to be effective. It doesn't. Even a small amount can make a difference. Your objective with pace variation is number one, to stop your opponent from getting into a rhythm, and two, to potentially create opportunities to put them under pressure. The real problem comes when there's no pace variation, when players just hit the ball at the same speed all of the time. Opponents get used to that speed very quickly, even if it's very fast. Now, I'm not saying that it suddenly becomes easy for them. What I'm saying is by not varying the pace, you're missing out on another tactical and strategic tool. It's important to note that just like all tactics and strategies, knowing when to use them is just as important as being able to use them. As you gain more experience, you can better judge their efficacy. I nearly always come back to what Jonah Barrington said, which was, and I paraphrase, at the end of the first game, you should know more about your opponent than they know about you. I take this to mean that you should put them in a variety of situations and see how they respond. And of course, one of those situations is varying the pace. Depending on your level, the amount and type of training you're doing, the part of the season and your playing style, your maximum hitting speed could change over the course of a season, both up and down. Don't expect that every time you go on court you're going to have beautifully sweet timing. There will be times when you're just not hitting the ball as effectively, and you need to vary your pace based on how well you're hitting the ball on the day. Here are my 4 reminders. Number 1, heat up properly. You should be sweating before you even hit the ball. Number 2, wear goggles. Protect your eyes at all costs. Number 3, use the right ball. Don't use a double yellow dot just because more advanced players do. Use the ball that makes squash the most fun. And number 4, there's a poster available. Download it and use it. Here are my solo practice principles. If you've seen them before, just keep the video running. If they're new to you, pause it, read it, understand it, and follow them. Initially, I want you to establish your max hitting speed. And to do this, I suggest you heat up completely and then start to do the side-to-side drill. Hit the ball increasingly hard until you are hitting it as hard as you can. Try to do this for about 20 seconds. The side-to-side drill allows you to focus on power and not so much control. At some point in the future, I will produce a video showing you good swing technique and how to generate power. But for now, I'll just let you do your best. This setup drill will help you understand how hard you can hit the ball. Don't worry about being able to completely control it, but you should still be able to keep the drill going. Drill 1. AutoPlayer feedback. Ever talk to yourself? Most of us do. Well, in this drill, I want you to do it aloud. Now that you've established your maximum hitting speed, I want you to try hitting the ball at 60, 70 and 80% your maximum. I want you to hit shots and call out the speed percentage before you hit the ball. At first, it's going to feel very strange, but learning how to vary the pace within limits is going to be very useful for you in matches. I suggest you start with a scale, i.e. 80 to 70 to 60 to 80 to 70 to 60, etc. Once this feels comfortable, you can do it randomly. Am I really hitting at exactly 60, 70 and 80% my maximum? No, of course not. I expect only professionals will have that level of control. The objective of this drill is to try to hit at those percentages. As long as you are trying to control the speed, that is enough to benefit from this drill. Notice how I try to keep my swing the same size so as not to show my opponent what I'm planning to do. Remember, my percentage of pace is different from yours. Also, your hitting speed will be different on your forehand and backhand, as will your max hitting speed at which you can control it. For example, I can hit the ball harder on my forehand than my backhand, but when I also consider controlling the ball, I can hit it harder with control on my backhand most days. For those interested, this AutoPlayer feedback can be used in lots of other ways, and who knows, maybe I'll even make a video about that too. As you become better at doing this drill, you can increase it to 5 speeds: 60, 65, 70, 75 and of course 80. But start with the 3 I just mentioned. To set your 3 speeds, you can actually do almost any single shot drill. But the easiest one is the simplest one. Hit some straight drives back to yourself. But do not worry if the ball comes off the back wall. I want your focus to be on pace, not to worry about getting the right length. If you prefer, you can do this via the side-to-side shot, but I feel it's better to do via a straight drive, as this is where you will be using it the most and the change of pace will be more apparent on the shot and its bounce. Let's watch and listen to me doing the scales.
80, 70, 60, 80, 70, 60, 80, 70, 60, 80, 70, 60, 80, 70.
Now, randomly.
80, 80, 70, 70, 80, 60, 60, 80, 70, 80.
Let's see what the difference in percentage looks like on court. I'm going to pause each video as close to the point of contact as possible. Then, let them run in slow motion for the same amount of frames and pause the videos again. This is just before the point of contact. Now watch. You can clearly see the difference each percentage makes. The difference between the percentages seems very consistent, and if I hadn't done it myself, I would have suspected cheating. Here it is again. Of course, we're only talking about tenths of seconds, but it can be enough to break an opponent's rhythm. Drill 2. Below, above and beyond. Use a target on the floor and start with a big one. Here, I've joined 3 A4 pieces of paper together long ways. Place it on the floor and against the wall, with the middle across the back of the service box line. This is another seemingly simple drill, but actually requires quite a lot of concentration. Your target can be bigger or smaller, although I obviously suggest you start with a big one, and as you get better, use a smaller one. Now hit about 6 shots below the service line and try to hit the target. Next, hit 6 shots a little above the service line. Again, still trying to hit the target. And finally, hit 6 shots a little below the outline, and of course, still trying to hit the target. The objective of this drill is to become accustomed to the concept of varying pace, but still keeping a good length. Drill 3. Varying length. This drill is almost the reverse of drill 2. I want you to create a new target out of paper. Take 3 pieces of A4 together, but this time join them widthways as shown. Stick it to the front wall with one end touching the side wall and at the service line height. Begin to hit the ball at varying speeds. Aim for the front wall target, but try to hit a few shots in the service box and then a few behind the service box. If you feel this is too easy, try for 3 different lengths. One in the service box, one beyond it, but not off the back wall, and one that always comes off the back wall. Your objective is to hit the same spot on the front wall, but adjust the speed to control the length. Don't worry if the target makes a really loud noise when you hit it. Well, there you go. As always, I hope you enjoyed it and benefited from it. If you have any comments, suggestions, doubts, feedback, or anything that you want to say, please post them in the comments and I will respond as soon as possible. And as always, do something every single day to improve your squash. See ya.